You've been lied to about breakfast, not by one person, not by accident, by decades of nutritional advice that was shaped, at least in part, by industries that had a financial interest in keeping you eating the wrong things every single morning. And if you have diabetes, or you're trying to manage your blood sugar, that lie may be doing you more damage than almost anything else you do all day. Because here's what nobody tells you. Breakfast isn't just the first meal of the day. For a diabetic, breakfast is the decision that determines how your blood sugar behaves for the next 8 to 12 hours. Get it wrong, and you spend the rest of the day chasing a glycemic roller coaster. Get it right, and your body, your pancreas, your liver, your cells works with you instead of against you. That's what this video is about. The 4 best breakfasts for diabetics to lower blood sugar and take back control. And by the time we're done, I think you're going to look at your morning routine in a completely different way. Now let me ask you something that I want you to sit with for a moment. What did you eat this morning? Or what do you typically eat? If the answer involves cereal, even the whole grain kind, or toast, even whole wheat toast, or a glass of orange juice, or a banana, because I'm going to show you exactly why those choices, despite everything you've been told, are working against you. The frustrating part is that many of these foods have been marketed specifically to people managing diabetes for decades. The low-fat muffin, the heart-healthy granola, the multi-grain toast, they carry health halos that make them look responsible, even virtuous. But underneath those labels, the carbohydrate content is staggering. And for a diabetic, carbohydrates, particularly refined ones, but even many whole grain ones, trigger a blood sugar spike that a non-diabetic body would handle in minutes, while your body may struggle to manage for hours. Here's the open loop I want to leave with you before we go further. By the end of this video, I'm going to tell you about one specific breakfast habit that research shows can reduce your A1C, your 3-month blood sugar average, measurably, in as little as 30 days. Not a medication, not a supplement, just a shift in what you eat before 9 in the morning. Keep that in your mind as we go through this. I want to be transparent with you about something. The information I'm sharing today isn't my personal opinion. I've spent an enormous amount of time reviewing clinical literature on glycemic response, postprandial blood glucose, and macronutrient timing in older adults. I've synthesized findings from peer-reviewed journals, endocrinology research, and nutritional science, specifically looking at populations over 60, because the metabolism of a 65-year-old is genuinely different from a 30-year-old, and most general dietary advice ignores that completely. What I'm going to share with you today is built on that foundation, practical, evidence-based, and designed specifically for where you are right now. Before we dive in, if you're finding this useful, take 2 seconds right now. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video, and give this a thumbs up. It genuinely helps more people like you find this content. And drop a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. I'd love to know where our community is tuning in from around the world. Hold on a second. Before we go any further, I've put something together for you. It's called the Glucose Paradox. It's a free guide on blood sugar and diabetes, and you can grab it for free through the link in the description. I'm telling you this now because I want you to finish this video with a concrete tool in your hands. To get it right away, just click the link in the description, head over to my site, and drop your email. You'll receive the guide in your inbox a few minutes later. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. Let's get back to the video. Let's start at the biological root of the problem. When you eat carbohydrates, any carbohydrates, whether they come from white bread or brown rice or a piece of fruit, your digestive system breaks them down into glucose. That glucose enters your bloodstream. Your pancreas detects the rise and releases insulin, the hormone whose job it is to shuttle that glucose out of the blood and into your cells, where it can be used for energy. In a healthy metabolic system, this process is efficient, swift, and elegantly balanced. But in a person with type 2 diabetes, or even in someone with pre-diabetes or insulin resistance, 2 things go wrong simultaneously. First, the pancreas may not produce enough insulin to manage the incoming glucose load. Second, and often more importantly, the cells themselves have become less responsive to insulin's signal, a condition called insulin resistance. They require more and more insulin to do the same job. It's like knocking on a door louder and louder and still not getting an answer. The result is that glucose lingers in the bloodstream far longer than it should, damaging blood vessel walls, promoting inflammation, straining the kidneys, impairing nerve function, the cascade of complications that define poorly managed diabetes. Now here's what makes breakfast so uniquely critical in this picture. After a night of fasting 6, 7, 8 hours without food, your liver has been releasing glucose into the bloodstream overnight to keep your brain and organs functioning. This is called hepatic glucose output, and it's a normal biological process. But in many diabetics, the liver overproduces glucose overnight, a phenomenon linked to insufficient insulin signaling. So by the time you wake up, your blood sugar may already be elevated. This is called the dawn phenomenon, and it means your body is already working from a deficit before you've taken your first bite. Now, if that first bite is a bowl of oatmeal made from quick-cooking oats, or a couple of slices of multigrain toast with a small glass of juice, you have just poured gasoline onto a fire that was already burning. The carbohydrates in those foods digest rapidly, flood glucose into a bloodstream that was already elevated, and your already strained pancreas is asked to perform a near impossible task. The solution is not to skip breakfast. Research consistently shows that skipping breakfast is associated with greater glycemic variability throughout the day in people with type 2 diabetes. The solution is to change what breakfast looks like. Fundamentally, not superficially. Not swapping white bread for multigrain. Not switching from sugary cereal to plain granola. A fundamental rethinking of the macronutrient composition of your first meal. Less carbohydrate, substantially more protein, adequate healthy fat, and enough fiber to slow every part of the digestive process down to a pace your body can actually manage. Let's talk about the 4 breakfasts that meet that standard, and let's go deep on the science behind each one, because understanding why something works is what gives you the confidence to actually stick with it. The first, and in many ways the most powerful, is eggs with non-starchy vegetables. Let's talk about eggs first. An egg is, biochemically speaking, one of the most complete foods that exists. A single large egg contains approximately 6 grams of high-quality protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids in proportions that your body can use with exceptional efficiency. That protein matters enormously for blood sugar, because dietary protein has a minimal effect on blood glucose, while simultaneously triggering a moderate insulin response that helps regulate postprandial glucose. There's also another mechanism at work. Protein activates GLP-1, a gut hormone glucagon-like peptide 1 that you may have heard about recently in the context of newer diabetes medications. GLP-1 slows gastric emptying, meaning food moves more slowly from your stomach into your intestine, which flattens the blood sugar curve significantly. When you eat a protein-rich breakfast, your body essentially produces its own version of the mechanism those expensive medications mimic. Beyond protein, eggs are rich in choline, a nutrient that plays a direct role in improving insulin sensitivity at the cellular level by supporting the integrity of cell membranes and the signaling pathways that allow insulin to communicate with muscle and fat cells. Now add to those eggs a generous portion of non-starchy vegetables: spinach, bell peppers, mushrooms, zucchini. These vegetables contribute almost no carbohydrates. We're talking 2 to 4 grams per cup for most of them, but they deliver 2 nutrients that are particularly critical for diabetics: fiber and magnesium. Soluble fiber forms a viscous gel in your digestive tract that physically slows the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream. Magnesium is required as a cofactor in over 300 enzymatic reactions, including many that are central to insulin signaling. Magnesium deficiency, which is extraordinarily common in people with type 2 diabetes, has been directly linked to worsening insulin resistance. A 2-egg scramble with spinach, peppers, and mushrooms, cooked in a small amount of olive oil, delivers a breakfast with fewer than 10 grams of net carbohydrates. Clinical studies on similar breakfast compositions have shown postprandial blood glucose reductions of 40 to 50 points compared to a standard carbohydrate-based breakfast. That is not a trivial difference. That is the difference between a blood sugar of 180 and a blood sugar of 132 hours after eating. The second breakfast is plain, full-fat Greek yogurt with nuts and seeds. And the word plain is doing enormous work in that sentence. Flavored Greek yogurts, including many marketed as light or healthy, can contain 20, 25, even 30 grams of added sugar in a single serving. That is the equivalent of eating several teaspoons of table sugar at breakfast. You might as well pour syrup on your morning meal. Plain Greek yogurt, by contrast, contains roughly 6 to 8 grams of naturally occurring lactose, which has a relatively low glycemic index compared to sucrose or fructose, and it delivers 18 to 20 grams of protein per cup. Here's why full fat matters. And this is where the conventional wisdom has led so many people astray for so long. Dietary fat does not spike blood sugar. It cannot. Fat has no glycemic load. What fat does, and this is the key, is slow the rate at which all the other contents of a meal leave the stomach and enter the small intestine. This blunting of gastric emptying is one of the most powerful natural mechanisms for controlling postprandial glucose. When you remove the fat from yogurt to create a low-fat version, you lose that protective slowing effect, and the carbohydrates in the yogurt are absorbed considerably faster. The research is clear on this, even if the marketing hasn't caught up. Now add to that yogurt a small handful of walnuts and a tablespoon of chia seeds or ground flaxseed. Walnuts provide alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that has been shown in multiple studies to reduce inflammatory markers that contribute to insulin resistance. Chia seeds, when they contact moisture, form a gel, almost identical in function to the viscous fiber I described earlier, that creates a physical barrier slowing glucose absorption at the intestinal wall. Ground flaxseed adds lignans, plant compounds with mild phytoestrogenic activity that some research suggests may improve insulin sensitivity, particularly in postmenopausal women. This breakfast combination, plain full-fat Greek yogurt, walnuts and seeds, delivers protein, healthy fat, and 2 distinct types of fiber in a package that is genuinely capable of keeping your blood sugar stable for 3 to 4 hours. The third breakfast is steel-cut oats with added protein. I want to address oatmeal carefully, because this is where people often feel confused. Oats have a reputation as a blood sugar-friendly food, and that reputation is partially, but only partially, deserved. The key distinction is in how the oats are processed. Instant oats and quick-cooking oats have been cut, rolled, and pre-cooked to reduce preparation time. This processing breaks down the cell wall structure of the grain, meaning your digestive enzymes can access and convert the starch to glucose very rapidly. Their glycemic index typically falls between 65 and 80. Steel-cut oats, which are simply whole oat groats that have been chopped into pieces, nothing more, retain a much more intact structure. Their glycemic index is approximately 42 to 45. That difference in glycemic index translates directly into a flatter, slower blood sugar curve after eating. But here's the critical caveat. Even steel-cut oats, consumed alone, will raise blood sugar meaningfully in most diabetics. A half cup of dry steel-cut oats contains roughly 27 grams of carbohydrate, even though a substantial portion is beta-glucan, the soluble fiber that slows absorption. To make steel-cut oats truly safe and effective for a diabetic, you must add protein, and you must add fat to the bowl, not on the side, but mixed in. Stir a quarter cup of plain Greek yogurt directly into the cooked oats. Add a handful of crushed walnuts or almonds. If you want to go further, some people crack a whole egg into hot oats and stir it quickly as it cooks. It incorporates seamlessly and adds 6 more grams of protein. These additions physically change the glycemic behavior of the meal. The protein delays gastric emptying. The fat further blunts absorption. The beta-glucan from the oats themselves forms its characteristic gel in the gut. The result is a breakfast that barely resembles, in metabolic terms, the instant oatmeal from a packet that many people have been eating for years believing it was helping them. The fourth breakfast is avocado on low glycemic seed bread with a protein source alongside. Let me start with avocado, because it may be the single most underutilized food in the diabetic diet. A whole avocado contains about 17 grams of fat, and approximately 75% of that fat is monounsaturated, primarily oleic acid, which is the same dominant fat in extra virgin olive oil. Oleic acid has been studied extensively for its role in improving insulin sensitivity. The mechanism involves its interaction with cell membrane composition. When cell membranes contain more monounsaturated fat, they remain more fluid and flexible, and the insulin receptor proteins embedded in those membranes function with greater responsiveness. Beyond the fat profile, avocado contains almost no net carbohydrates, about 2 grams per half avocado, once fiber is subtracted, and it provides potassium at levels that support healthy blood pressure, which matters because hypertension and diabetes co-occur at very high rates. Now the bread. This is where most people make a critical mistake. Whole grain bread and multigrain bread are not low glycemic. Most commercial whole wheat bread has a glycemic index between 69 and 75, nearly identical to white bread. What you want is seed bread, meaning bread where a substantial portion of the loaf is made from seeds rather than flour. Seeds, pumpkin, sunflower, sesame, flax, are high in fat and protein and contain negligible starch. True seed bread has a glycemic index as low as 34 to 40, dramatically lower than any conventional wheat bread. You want to see actual seeds throughout the loaf, not just on the crust. Limit yourself to one slice, and top it generously with mashed avocado. Then add a protein, a hard-boiled egg, a couple of slices of smoked salmon, or even a small scoop of cottage cheese on the side. That protein component is not optional. Without it, even this low glycemic foundation can cause a measurable blood sugar response in sensitive individuals. With it, the meal becomes a balanced, low glycemic, anti-inflammatory breakfast that supports blood sugar control, satiety, and metabolic health simultaneously. Now I want to bring this home to a very practical challenge, because information without action is just noise. Here's what I want you to do for the next 30 days. Every morning, choose one of these 4 breakfasts. Rotate through them if you like, or pick your favorite and repeat it. Then, and this is the key piece, check your blood sugar 2 hours after you finish eating. Write it down. You don't need a fancy app. A small notebook works perfectly. What you'll see, typically within the first week, is that your 2-hour postprandial reading is dramatically lower than what you were experiencing before. That 2-hour number matters profoundly. Every time blood sugar spikes above 140 milligrams per deciliter after a meal, it triggers a cascade of oxidative stress and inflammation in blood vessel walls. Every time you keep that number below 120, you are actively protecting your kidneys, your nerves, your eyes, and your cardiovascular system. Dozens of patients who have made this one change, just breakfast, just the morning meal, have reported meaningful drops in their A1C at their next 3-month check. Because A1C is an average, and if you flatten the spike that happens every single morning, every single day, you are moving that average in a measurable direction. You don't have to overhaul your entire diet overnight. Start with breakfast. Start tomorrow. What you put on your plate before 9 in the morning is quietly, powerfully shaping what your body does for the rest of the day. And hey, if you made it all the way here, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button to let me know this was worth your time. And leave a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. Seriously, I read every single one, and it means a lot to see how far this community reaches. You know what the problem is with diabetes and high blood sugar. Most people find out way too late, and by the time they do, they have no idea where to even start. That's why I decided to create a free guide. It's called the Glucose Paradox, and inside, you'll find everything you wish you'd known sooner. I'll explain how blood sugar actually works, and why your body sometimes reacts the exact opposite way you'd expect. That's why it's called a paradox. I've also included concrete habits you can start changing right now, even if you know zero about nutrition or medicine. It's free. You can download it in a second, and it might be the single most useful thing you do for your health today. Just click the link in the description to head to the site, drop your email, and get the guide sent straight to you. Don't put this off.